Now, at Business Today in the Multiverse, we believe with starting with a bang, literally. It's also, well, a segue into the first panel of the evening. The panel is aptly titled, A View from the Corner Office. In this session, with top women, CEOs and business leaders, we'll explore their diverse leadership perspectives, the power of mentorship, intricate strategies to prepare the next generation of C-suite leaders, and the profound insights that have shaped their successful journeys. Let me welcome on stage our panelists for the evening. Upasana Taku, co-founder and CEO at MobiKwik. Prabha Narsimhan, MD and CEO, Colgate-Palmolive, India. Vinati Saraf Mutreja, MD and CEO, Vinti Organics Limited. Devita Saraf, Chairperson and CEO at The View Group. Ameera Shah, MD, Metropolis Healthcare. And this panel will be moderated by my colleague, Sakshi Batra. Can we have a huge round of applause, please?
Good evening, everyone. And thank you very much, Ayush, for that. Well, just like how Ayush mentioned, the first panel this evening is all about understanding how the view literally is from the corner office. And on my panel this evening, I have truly the most powerful women in business. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to all my panelists. These panelists have truly displayed exemplary leadership in their own walks of life. And today, I'm going to try and understand from them how your journey has been literally as you move to the corner office, the hard work, the sweat, the tears, the challenges that you've met on the way, and the learnings that can inspire all of us as well. So let me kickstart by you, Ameera. Tell me what the corner office is truly like, and how your life at the corner office is.
Thanks for having me here. The corner office is always this noisy, number one. There's always some chaos in the office and something always dynamic and different happening. But on a more serious note, I mean, I think, you know, as having built this business for the last 22 years, I've gone straight from being at the counter to the corner office, because you, as an entrepreneur and a promoter who's building the business, you pretty much land up doing everything, right? There's no structured training program that I've sort of gone through, or levels that I've gone through. So I've been at the customer desk at the front end dealing with consumers, at the same time been the person picking up furniture and moving, at the same time you're making decisions which are going to impact you know, thousands of people. So I think the ability and the adaptability to do anything that you need to do for your business, I think is obviously a very critical part of being a leader. And walking that talk is very important. I mean, I think the journey has been exceptional. It's been a full roller coaster ride. And that's what I've loved about it. It has not been a straight line at all. There have been, you know, boardroom battles. There have been 3 rounds of private equity. There's been a public issue. There's been in the 4 years we've been public, we've had a roller coaster ride because we had COVID and then no COVID. So it's been quite crazy. But overall, I mean, I wouldn't change the roller coaster experience for anything, because I genuinely believe that the biggest learnings and the wisest things to learn are really when things get really tough. And honestly, I've had to dig very deep in myself at the tough times to find the grit, the strength, and the sanity to just stay through the chaos. And that's actually been the biggest thing that's helped me grow.
Fair enough. Prabha, let me take the question to you. What are the key challenges that you've seen along the way when you've reached the corner office, how you navigated through them all through your career, and now how is life?
Good evening, and thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure and a privilege to be here on this panel. I've actually had the opposite experience, because I've had the joy, the whatever else of being in the corner office only for the last year or so, having worked for 22 odd years before that. So I think the couple of lessons that I've learned along the way, I think firstly, one must be clear in terms of where your passion and purpose lie. And it sounds like a truism, but actually you end up doing your best work when there is alignment between your passion, purpose, and what you do. And I've been truly fortunate to work for two companies that have helped me to do that, whether it's Hindustan Unilever or now Colgate. I think the second lesson that I've learned along the way actually is, if as long as you're getting better every day, and you're enjoying what you do and you feel like you're personally expanding your capabilities, eventually you will get where you're meant to get to. And I'm not sure, people often ask you the question of where do you see yourself 5 years from now and so on. I find that question extraordinarily difficult to answer and extraordinarily difficult to plan. And so I think more, a day better than yesterday kind of approach has worked for me. But so far the year has been fun.
Wonderful. Vinity, how is the view from your corner office? And tell me the biggest or the most challenging part of being at the corner office for you.
So, my story has been slightly different. I joined my father's company. I'm a second generation entrepreneur. It was a very, very small business when I joined. Just to give you some perspective, we were making one product, selling it only in India, doing about, we were listed then, market cap was maybe about 20 crores. Today we do more than 30 products, supply to 30 countries. We trade at somewhere around 18,000 crores. So that's been the journey really for the last 17 odd years. I have grown, I would say with my father, we both built this business together. We started expanding through integration. We are into specialized chemicals where processes are forte, and that is what creates the moat. So having good technical expertise has been a big boon. I'm an engineer and as well as I have a business background. So it's been fun actually. It's been interesting. It's been a combination of challenges and fun.
Wonderful. Devita, can you highlight any key accomplishment or a milestone that defined a turning point in your career and that really helped you to reach where you are today?
Well, I started my company 17 years ago, and I've been sitting in the corner office with a nice view literally for a long time. So I will say from my perspective, the biggest turning point, of course, was when I decided to turn entrepreneur and start my own company. And to be honest, technology, consumer electronics is a very competitive field. Of course, there are not that many women in it, but that also gave me a chance to redefine the industry. It was a very commoditized, low cost, low margin space. And coming in as an entrepreneur, I said, what is it that I can bring in as a woman entrepreneur that makes this business different from most of the competitors in the industry? So every time I see that the industry tends to either commoditize, or there are people who are trying to disrupt it with low prices, or there are too many foreign competitors coming in, crowding in the market, I think each turning point is that I bring in as a woman entrepreneur to define what us and the industry should do competitively and creatively for the customer. So I think the turning point is, as long as you are the turning point to the industry, I think you're in a good space in your corner office.
Fantastic. Upasna, from Stanford to startup, tell us, what have been the key challenges that you've faced and how you navigated through them? Any particular strategies that you adopted that helped you be successful over the journey, so that everybody here who's aspiring to be the next generation entrepreneur or a leader can learn from you?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me here. A very good evening to everyone. I would say that I became an entrepreneur by mistake, I would say. I'm not saying I didn't want to. I'll tell you how it all started. I come from a very academia-focused family. My father had a PhD in physics, and I'm Kashmiri, so हमारे में सिर्फ पढ़ाई करनी होती है, and you have to do a government job or a engineering job. So I wanted to pursue a master's in engineering. That's the genesis of my life story. That's why I'm revealing it. And I applied to some 8-9 universities abroad, and I had good grades. I was a very nerdy student. So I got admission to all the universities except the one that I wanted to go to, which was Berkeley. I didn't get. But I got an admit in Stanford, which was very surprising for me because I had not studied from any IIT. And typically they had never admitted anybody from India in an engineering program who was non-IIT. So that created a challenge because being from a extremely middle class family with both parents being teachers, it was impossible to afford even 1/4 of tuition fee. And so there began my first journey of hustle, which my sister pushed me into. Her idea was that you have to fly to US anyway, visa bhi hai, admits bhi hai. So why don't you fly first to San Francisco and try to hustle a scholarship? If you get it, then fine. Otherwise, you can go to any of the other schools that you have admits in. So I went there with my first flight ever is a 24-hour flight. I don't know anyone. I don't have any family relatives. And very interestingly, I asked a lot of Indian students to help me, and I did a lot of door-to-door marketing of myself to all the professors. And long story short, not intending to bore everyone, at the end of the 29th day, I was finally able to hustle a scholarship of 100,000 US, which paid for my entire education for 2 years. And I can tell you, until then, I was a very shy and not very confident person. And that was my first confidence building moment in life. That you can literally get a win out of, all indications of failure. You know, like that last over in a cricket match, you can get a win out of the last ball. And I think that is where my journey began. And so after pursuing a career in the Valley, I wanted to do something in financial services in India. So I moved back. And after working for a few companies, non-profits, for profits, I decided I must start on my own. Otherwise, I won't be able to do what I want to do. So I think that journey has been exhilarating. It's been 14 years. When we started, I don't know how to put this, but everybody said you are fools, including my own family, that India will never go digital payments. So just for reference, what we do at MobiKwik is we do digital payments, we do credit, and we do all financial services completely digitally on an app. So I think it took 4 years to get the first conviction. And we did that by just building it ourselves. Just me and my co-founder working from a dining table, 2 laptops, and putting together our own savings. And I want to tell you that by the time we were at the 3-4 year mark, we had like 1 million users. We were revenue and cash positive. We had employees that we were able to pay salaries to, and we were one of the early recipients of RBI's prepaid wallet license. I think that was our first moment of conviction, that अब कुछ बन सकता है, और तब से बना ही रहे हैं, अभी चल ही रहा है.
चल ही रहा है और बहुत बढ़िया चल रहा है उपासना, because I can say it with confidence that everybody present over here is using some or the other form of digital payments. Are you? Yes, everyone is, and it's a big kudos to companies like you and people like you. So thank you for bringing the ease of digital payments in our lives. All right, Vinati, I wanted to understand from you. You know, you belong to a company which was completely male-dominated. Never heard of a woman leader in that space. Chemicals as a sector was seen as a boring sector, maybe a polluting sector. But, you know, I want to understand from you, how did you manage to change the stereotypes around women leaders in that area?
Well, you are right. Manufacturing and chemicals, especially in India, is very, very male-dominated, especially at the top. Now, what I found interesting was because we export a lot, abroad, if you go abroad, there, the chemical companies, you find a lot of women. And that sort of encouraged me that this is an industry where I can be here and, you know, find my ground. Also, I had an interest in the business. You know, I did my summer internships here. I started working right from college. If you're passionate about the subject, if you have good understanding, frankly, manufacturing is actually a very, very equitable industry. It doesn't really matter who's selling the product. It can be male, female, 25-year-old, 45-year-old, your product is good, price is good, service is good, that's all that matters.
Wonderful. Prabha, let me take the question to you. How has the business landscape really changed over the years around women entrepreneurs and women leaders, especially in the industry that you are in, FMCG?
So I think firstly, there's been a rather late realization that most of the decision making in FMCG is women. So most of the products actually are sold to women. The decisions are taken by women. And I think it's reasonably logical to assume that women would have at least as good an understanding of other women as men would. And I think that realization has grown over a period of time. I think the other really good thing that has happened to the industry is that people have done some empirical evidence on what happens when you introduce diversity into a company, what happens to the type of decisions you take, what happens to the outcomes, whether it be top line or bottom line. And they have found that the more diversity you have, and you know, now when we say it, it sounds utterly like, yeah, of course. But I think for the people who did the research and they found this kind of data, it did come as a little bit of a surprise that diversity certainly adds to the quality of decision making. And over the near 25 years now that I've worked, I think this has only grown and developed, and there is now more and more acceptance. And what I think is fantastic about the country now is that we're able to drive this agenda of diversity without a compromise on meritocracy. So you have enough women who have capability, who have caliber, who have the experience, who have the skill set, and enough men, and then you have a balanced slate, and you're able to pick the best and still get to having diversity, which I think is amazing.
Wonderful. Amira, share with us, you know, one of the most important or valuable lessons maybe a mentor in your life has passed on to you, which really helped you in reaching thus far, and something that you'd now like to pass on to your mentees and also to the future generation of women leaders.
So I think one of the things as women in India we're not really conditioned to do is to take risk, right? We are always protected. We are always told to take the safest way home. You know, don't go here, don't go there, don't do this, don't do that, 1,000 instructions and rules. And it's all to protect us, right? And it's all good intentions. But what lands up happening is, as women in our country, we don't really understand how to navigate risk. We stay far away from it because we always think the safest path is the best one. And I think finally, if you want to be a business leader, male or female, you have to be able to not only take risk, but understand risk, see the consequences, analyze it, and be able to take a decision what's best for you. So, I mean, I remember it was 2015, and I was taking the biggest risk of my life, where I took 600 crore personal loan, you know, to increase my stake in my company from 36% to about 65%. And I was buying over the existing private equity partner in my business at the time. And it was in the middle of lots of chaos and noise. So it was the most risky situation. I pledged 100% of my business. I pledged myself. I pledged everything I owned, you know, just to increase my stake. And I used to wake up at 4 in the morning in panic attacks, right? Because I was like, what am I doing? Like, it's not only if this fails, it's going to be me on the street, my parents on the street, my employees on the street, everything's gone. It's the biggest punt I've ever taken. And I remember I was talking to somebody who I have a lot of respect for, Deepak Parekh, and I was chatting with him. And he gave me some very good advice. And he said to me, he said, Meera, you do what you want. In fact, you know, you take whatever loan you want. I believe in you. I think you can pull this off. While most other people told me, don't do it, you're a fool. He said, the only thing I want you to do is take 25 crores out of whatever investments you have, or from the business, or from, you know, whichever way you can, and please put it aside in secure liquid funds and FDs and whatever. And I did that because I had a lot of respect for what he told me. And the minute I did that, it actually allowed me to take more risk. Because the funny thing about risk is when you have a net and a little bit of a security blanket, you can actually leap even further. But when you have no safety net and no security blanket, it pulls you back actually from taking risk. And that was a really interesting and important lesson to learn.
Absolutely. Devita, in terms of taking risks, I think you have taken many risks. You know, at the age of 17, when you took the plunge and wanted to revolutionize the TV space, which was largely dominated by foreign players. So you were head on, not just with domestic giants, but also international giants. Tell us how your journey has been. What was the biggest challenge for you? How did you build a support network for your own thoughts and beliefs, both within the organization and outside as well?
Answering my life journey in one question is going to be a little bit tough, but I'm going to give it the best shot I can. So essentially, I come from a family business background, I grew up seeing my father as an entrepreneur. He is the founder of Zenith Computers. And I grew up in an environment where my brother and I were both treated very equally. It was quite a gender neutral upbringing. It was not this mindset that, oh, there's a son and so he's going to take over the business. So both of us were trained from being in business from a very young age. And when I was 17, actually, I decided to move to California, to Silicon Valley, because what was happening is that was the epicenter of all the technology in the world. And back in the 90s and early 2000s, one of the very common themes everywhere was that, you know what, these MNCs are coming, these foreign brands are coming, and they are going to destroy Indian businesses and Indian entrepreneurship. So this was the dialogue that was happening at the business level and also from the consumer level, you know, where people were like, oh, something foreign is better. And I realized that there is a lot of change that I need to bring in, because you cannot have an Indian economy that is dependent only on foreign innovation and foreign brands and us be the sort of back end of the world. So I decided, you know what, let me learn from the enemy camp literally and go to the US and see what is it that these foreigners do so magical that they bring into businesses that all of us want to lap up whatever products they bring to us. So I spent my time in California, worked out all those relationships, which then I brought into the company that I started. So actually the company that I started, View Televisions, the vision was to build a high-end electronics brand. Because all the brands, even now, have always been this mass brand. Even the large Indian conglomerates, if you see in their own portfolio, all their companies in the premium luxury space are all franchisees. They are all operating on the mass level. So I said, I work closely with someone who's now the global CEO of Acer to develop our own labs in collaboration with Intel, AMD, MIT Media Lab, etc. and say, let's build our own labs to make high-end products. Because what's happening is, the truth is, that all the innovation that we see today in technology, which is coming from the US, a lot of it mostly has Indian minds and Indian leadership behind it. So what are we not doing here as entrepreneurs to create those kind of companies where someone says, I do not want to move to the US, I want to be able to put in my brain and put in that innovation in an Indian company in India for India. So it took a while for us to establish this concept of a global Indian brand and really convince people that, listen, we're not in the game to be a low-cost player. We want to compete with the likes of Sony, Samsung, LG. And everything, whether it was distribution, whether it was you know, the product sourcing, manufacturing, we worked only with the top guys each time. And each time, with all this constant, you know, competition coming to us in every area where we would go, where someone could easily outspend us or out manufacture us or take a price hit or you know, put in whatever traditional formats they may have to block distribution. We constantly kept our eye that, listen, we're Indian owned, but we're high end. So, you know, I think it was Michelle Obama who said that when they go low, you go high. And the mindset was that, listen, forget whatever is happening, let's just keep going more and more high end. And it's an everyday challenge for us in my business. I can't even say this used to happen. It still happens on a daily basis. But the good thing is that today the pride that people have, Indians have in India, is a lot better than before. And so the kind of talent we're attracting, the kind of market acceptability that's there, the kind of resources, innovation, tie-ups available to an Indian entrepreneur is on a global level. And I'm very excited because I'm leaving for Dubai in a few hours where I'm launching View Televisions in GCC. And it's, I think, the first time that an Indian premium brand has gone there to compete with the best. So every day is a challenge, but that's the opportunity too.
Congratulations on that. Upasna, tell us any personal anecdote that you can share with us of a mentor who may have made a significant impact in your life, in your journey thus far.
Well, this question gets asked a lot, and while I follow a lot of people and read avidly, and I absolutely loved Phil Knight's Shoe Dog. But I want to say that a lot of people have inspired me, but I think the one person that has created the largest impact in my life by mentoring me and coaching me and being my largest supporter is actually my father. And incidentally, he passed away last year. And it was only after he passed away that I realized that I mean, we all know that large part of who we become is based on how your parents raise you. But I did not realize the kind of support that I got from my father as I went through various ups and downs in my last decade of building MobiQuick. Uh, and I think that it has taken a huge toll on me to figure out how am I going to create that support system, because now I have to manage that stress myself. Just a quick cup of tea with my father would help me resolve so many stressful issues, and lived through many of those. 2, 3 cycles of internet bust and boom have happened. Competitors raising large amounts of money, competitors having a very bad performance in markets, a $1 trillion giant like Google entering the payments market in India. So there have been a lot of down days, but the conviction to get up and start next day again and get going, I think a lot of that I got from my father, and now I'm trying hard to find a mentor of the same order, in my inner circle of family and friends.
And you can be a mentor to somebody in your office now. They will
That
be looking
That I'm trying very hard, because one of the things that I learned from my late father is that he always found time to help people, regardless of whether they were in his line of work or not. So I do try to give time as much as possible, especially to young female founders. And I can say that I'm an internet entrepreneur. So this one anecdote I will tell you. I went to the Goldman Sachs TMT conference in Hong Kong. And for the first several years, my co-founder used to go for that. And then when I went first time in 2018, I realized that from India, there was not even, a second female founder. And I'm not trying to say this to brag about me. I felt so bad. It was an army of men from the Indian contingent. But China had so many women founders. And it sparked something in me. So I started a very small WhatsApp group. And since then we've been adding at every event, and I'm going to add many more that I find here. So we are now, I can tell you, almost 200 women in tech that are there. I am very happy that India is seeing that day.
Wonderful, wonderful. Amina, tell us, of course, when we talk about the new mentees, women who are aspiring for executive roles in your own companies, what are some of the initiatives that now you're taking to prepare the next set of C-suite leaders?
I think it starts with opportunity, right, and no bias, right, and I think that's the first step, and creating that opportunity and bias at every level, right? No bias at every level. And a lot of it is about the culture you set from the top, right? If people see me being biased in any form, and it's not only male, female, it could be caste, it could be religion, it could be disability or no disability, but bias in any form is poisonous, and it spreads, because you may think some bias is okay, but somebody will say, okay, if she's biased, then I can also be. So I think as the leader to first, put aside as many biases as consciously possible. That's one. But the second thing is then to play an active role in actually helping people visualize their career opportunities. Often I see people live lives in very small, short periods of time. They think about, especially people who are in executive roles, often think about life in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, right? And if you ask them, look, sort of what would you like to do, or what would you think of, right? That the visualization has not really always gone to the future, because they don't always know the opportunities, they don't know what they can become, they're not sure of how they can evolve. So I think where we can help is, because entrepreneurs very naturally, or leaders naturally, have a longer mindset, right? Because when you're a builder, you can't do something in 1 year, 2 years. Any organization or institution you want to build is going to take at least 10 years, 20 years to build.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the role that we can play in visualizing the future, giving them cold, hard truth about the current status, the present status. And at Metropolis, like I'm really happy that we have almost 53% of our employees out of 5,500 are women.
Correct.
Right? And it's not at every level, unfortunately, yet, but at most of the levels, that's true. We're still trying to fix it at the senior management, at the leadership level,
Yeah.
where currently it's only 30%.
Yeah.
But I think this has happened over a lot of culture building and not accepting certain things. So I think it's as important to know what to do and as important on what is you can't do. And
Right.
those rules have to be clear.
Right. Prabha, why don't you add to that? What are some of the biggest challenges that mid-management women are facing at workplaces when they want to take the next step to the senior level and they're not able to? What are the biggest challenges they're facing and what do you see around you?
So I want to actually build on what Amira said. I think the first thing is really for women to see that, their opportunities are limitless. You can do pretty much anything that you want to do, and that is shifting very quickly. So the younger women in our organization are seeing themselves as being pretty much anything that they want to be. But however, there is a biological thing to being a woman, obviously. And the two areas in which we find a significant drop-off are, firstly, when women get married. And sometimes they end up becoming the trailing spouse,
Yes.
and therefore that becomes difficult. And the way organizations are dealing with this, including at Colgate, is flexible policies on where you work from, how often you need to come to office. And COVID has been one of the good things about COVID is it's been brilliant about bringing in that flexibility. I think the second thing, of course, is when you have a child. And that again puts a lot of burden, and women have a lot of self-doubt in terms of, am I being left behind? Should I be at home? There's a lot of guilt. Should I be in office? So managing that, I think, to help women to manage that from a well-being point of view, to manage that from an actual help point of view with childcare, with creches, with those kind of things, and to manage that by helping fathers also play an equal role with things like paternity leave, are really helping us to make sure that we don't lose women at these two key points in their
Right.
trajectory.
But is there also a fact that women themselves are not taking that step? Are they hesitant when it comes to asking for a raise? When it comes to compensation or a position, they think that they deserve it, but there is some hesitance right there. Viniti, could you point out to that?
I think the biggest challenge in our industry is first finding women chemical engineers. Very, very few of them opt for that field. Even if they take engineering, they end up doing IT or software. And even if they do chemical engineering, the profession of choice is to get recruited by an IT company. But that is changing slowly. Chemicals suddenly is becoming interesting. People are talking about carbon savings and green hydrogen and all those things. And so a lot of the younger lot is getting interested in this industry. And I do agree with you that the younger lot of women, they are not hesitant about asking for a raise or what they think they deserve. It's slightly the older ones that have grown up in a different generation.
Okay. Devita, what advice would you give to the future generation women leaders now?
Well, when we're talking so much about mentors and women and growing women, I will share with you a personal anecdote which made a big impression on me and the way I look at women in my organization. So when I was at University of Southern California, I was selected for this leadership class. And my professor was he used to be Professor Warren Bennis. Dr. Warren Bennis was the foremost authority on leadership. And he used to consult all the American presidents, etc. And all of us, young women, very excited to graduate from college, like take over the world, future is female, etc. And he told me something I'll never forget. He said, you know what, Devita, the day you can hire someone younger than you, smarter than you, and better looking than you, consider yourself successful. So my advice would not be to future women. I think I meet such driven women today. I get very inspired when I see them. I think my advice to myself and all of us here is we have to make sure that we pave the way for the women of the next generation, and we do it with grace, so that we never have this situation in the future. In India, they love saying, औरत ही औरत की सबसे बड़ी दुश्मन है. But in the business world, it should be औरत ही औरत की सबसे बड़ी leader है. So
True.
yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Upasna, what I think we all want to know is, while we are celebrating most powerful women in all walks of life, especially in business on this platform, you know, there is always like she's the most successful woman leader. When will we get to, when is, you know, when we call a person, she is the most successful leader and not have that bias of a gender, male or female?
I think you guys can play a big role in that. I think I stopped going until some point to events where the agenda was women only. I'm not trying to be sarcastic here. I'm just saying that, but we have a long way to go. Frankly speaking, I mean, I will say that the percentage of women founders in internet companies in India is still very small. It is coming up the curve. And, you know, some of my co-panelists said that, you know, younger women are more driven. They are not fearful of asking for the right compensation, the right roles. I think it's a good thing. Why do we want women to play on the back foot? They should play on the front foot. And I'm a believer in the fact that, you know, you have your passions and you have your life's wishes, and you should get to have your cake and eat it too. And which means that if career means everything to someone, so be it. If personal life means everything to someone, so be it. If balancing means something to someone, that should be their, you know, go-to. So, you know, personally, I believe that the percentage of women participation at CXO levels as well as founder levels is still very, very poor. It's still less than 10% for sure. So therefore, unfortunately, women founder, women CEO will continue. But let's hope that India, as it becomes, you know, more powerful economy, GDP is growing. Let's hope that there's more female participation in our workforce, and we can build more products and services for India. And I hope that women can play a huge role in that. I think if our gender participation in the workforce increases, you know, we'll become the third or fourth largest economy much, much faster. So.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, Upasna, Devta, Vinati, Prabha, Amira, all of you, for sharing such wonderful insights this evening with all our listeners, audience here, and viewers who are watching us on Business Today television as well. Many thanks for such inspiring stories. All the very best to you. Here we are. We will continue to cheer you, and many of the future leaders would be now getting ready with your advice to take the next step. Many thanks. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, ladies, can we request you to stay on stage? Thank you for a scintillating session. Ladies and ladies in the crowd, please, a huge round of applause. All right, I'm going to request Mr. Ambuj Narayan, CEO, Tata Tenera, to express a token of our gratitude to our esteemed